Welcome to In Pursuit of Truth. This is your host, Sir Patrick Mack. Busy news day today. I had to get to work on the run. Here's me showing up to work today. Sorry about the drink, bro. I was in a hurry. I swear I'll get you tomorrow. John, guess what?
What?
You the man. How many posts we got?
9.
Nice. Let's get started. 20:96, 35 minutes after the hour of 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Anon gives us an excerpt here from the Washington Post. And as you know, I am on a paywall there, but we'll get the idea here. We also have a Fox News link kind of telling the same story. But let's start here with the WAPO. Prosecutors use grand jury as investigation of Andrew McCabe intensifies. Federal prosecutors have for months been using a grand jury to investigate former FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe. Let me read that again. Prosecutors have for months been using a grand jury to investigate former FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe, an indication the probe into whether he misled officials exploring his role in a controversial media disclosure has intensified, two people familiar with the matter said. The grand jury has summoned more than one witness, the people said, and the case is ongoing. The people declined to identify those who have been called to testify. The presence of the grand jury shows prosecutors are treating the matter seriously, locking in the accounts of witnesses who might later have to testify at a trial. But such panels are sometimes used only as investigative tools, and it remains unclear if McCabe will ultimately be charged. A spokesman for the U.S. Attorney's Office in D.C., which has been handling the probe, declined to comment, as did a spokeswoman for McCabe. Okay, well, they've been very tight-lipped about this, right? But here's another grand jury. Now, keep in mind, this grand jury is in D.C. We'll talk about that in just a second here. But this has been going on for some time. And of course, we're not really hearing anything about that because there's no leaking going on. Now, Q adds on here and says, read between the lines, March 22nd. And that's this link right here off of Fox News from March 22nd. Goodlatte subpoenas DOJ for documents related to Clinton email probe, FISA abuses. House Judiciary Committee Chairman Bob Goodlatte subpoenaed the Justice Department on Thursday for documents regarding the charging decisions in the investigation into Hillary Clinton's private email server, potential abuses of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, and the recommendation from the FBI's Office of Professional Responsibility to fire former FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe. Goodlatte from Virginia, who has said he would not seek re-election in November, penned a letter to Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein on Thursday attached to the document subpoena. Goodlatte requested documents related to the Clinton email investigation and noted that only a fraction of those documents had been produced, with no documents provided related to the request on potential FISA abuses. Given the department's ongoing delays in producing these documents, I am left with no choice but to issue the enclosed subpoena to compel production of these documents, Goodlatte wrote. Goodlatte added that since the request for Clinton email server investigation documents, the FBI's Office of Professional Responsibility recommended the dismissal of McCabe, who was fired ahead of his retirement last Friday, putting his full pension in jeopardy. This recommendation appears to be based at least in part on events related to the investigation surrounding Secretary Clinton's private email server, Goodlatte wrote. Accordingly, the subpoena additionally covers all documents and communications relied upon by FBI's Office of Professional Responsibility in reaching its decision to recommend the dismissal of former Deputy Director McCabe. Justice Department spokesman Ian Pryor, in a statement to Fox News, said the DOJ and the FBI takes the committee's inquiry seriously and are committed to accommodating its oversight request in a manner consistent with the department's law enforcement and national security responsibilities. Instead of using our time and resources to conduct oversight on pressing matters that actually impact our country today, like the Russian government's ongoing attack on our elections or President Trump's crusade to undermine the independence of the Department of Justice, Judiciary Republicans have chosen to issue a unilateral subpoena to acquire information related to Hillary Clinton's emails. Their priorities are upside down and out of touch with the American public, House Judiciary Committee ranking member Jerry Nadler from New York responded. The Justice Department said that more than 24 FBI staff have been assisting the DOJ in producing on a rolling basis responsive documents to the committee's broad request every 10 to 14 days. Let's hear that again. The Justice Department said that more than 24 FBI staff have been assisting the DOJ in producing on a rolling basis responsive documents to the committee's broad requests every 10 to 14 days. The original universe of documents requested was substantial, but there are approximately 30,000 documents thought to be responsive to the committee's inquiry. Of that, we have thus far delivered 3,000 documents to the committee. And of course, this was back in March, Pryor said in a statement. We are individually reviewing the remaining documents to ensure that they do not include grand jury information about ongoing law enforcement actions involving American citizens, or privileged attorney-client communications, Pryor said. In cases where redactions have been necessary, the department has, when appropriate, provided committee staff an opportunity for in-camera review of unredacted materials. Earlier this month, Goodlatte, along with House Oversight Committee Chairman Trey Gowdy, demanded the Justice Department appoint a second special counsel to investigate conflicts of interest and decisions made and not made by current and former Justice Department officials in potential FISA abuses and the Clinton email probe. Okay, well, I'm not really sure about that second special counsel, but again, this was back in March, right? Well, Q dials us right into where Q wants us to look. We are individually reviewing the remaining documents to ensure that they do not include grand jury information about ongoing law enforcement actions involving American citizens, or privileged attorney-client communications, Pryor said. Okay, so they don't really want to let anything go that is going to disrupt any grand jury information, which is extremely important. Information about ongoing law enforcement actions. That would be by Huber, right? And this has been going on since March, and the reason we're not hearing a lot about it is, like I said, nothing's getting leaked. Federal prosecutors have for months been using a grand jury, and of course that was the first line I turned you to, right? You didn't think nothing was happening, did you? Yeah, Q is letting us know, basically, we're getting two sides of this story here, but the story is still the same. This has been going on since March. Okay, and it looks like they're slowly leaking out more and more documents, which is why we're getting it that way. We seem to be getting just a little bit every week. So there's a lot of people that are kind of wondering when this all is going to drop, and it's not really going to probably drop in one day. At least that's my guess. Now, we may have some days that are bigger than others, but I have a feeling this is the way we're going to get our information. It's going to be kind of leaking out every couple days. And some days, like I said, might be really, really big days, and others not so much. But this seems to be the way. It looks like they're signing off on things, making sure that it doesn't have anything to do with the grand jury. And then once that kind of stuff is finished, then they can slowly get things declassed. Now, that being said, we still may get that Whopper with cheese by Friday, and who knows? That's what it looks like. We're getting something on Friday, but I just don't want to set anybody up for a disappointment, because I have a feeling that having watched Q over the months, this is kind of how it's gone. We get bombshells, but they're little ones every single day. But we do know this. Federal prosecutors have for months been using a grand jury to investigate former FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe. So this gentleman's story is not quite over, and I think Q wants to remind us that lots of work is still being done. Let's move on to the next post for now. Post 2097, 46 minutes after the hour of 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Q is responding to some anons on 8chan, saying 1 in a billion coincidence. Enjoy the show tonight, Q. And it's in regards to a picture. We're going to talk about that picture in 2099. I was going to take you over to 8chan, but there's some not safe for work pictures there that would pop up on the page. So I'm just going to leave it. But don't worry, we're going to discuss this very picture here in 2099, the one highlighted in pink. Let's move on to 2098 for now. 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. An Anon posts this off of Twitter from Breaking 911. Heads up, nationwide emergency alert system test planned. And then it just repeats the title here, Q confirms. Now let's talk about that for a second. And here's the article from Breaking 911, September 6. Heads up, nationwide emergency alert system test planned. IPAWS, National Test of the Emergency Alert System, EAS, and Wireless Emergency Alerts, WEA, set for Thursday, September 20th, 2018. Again, that's Thursday, September 20th, 2018. The Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, in coordination with the Federal Communications Commission, will conduct a nationwide test of the Emergency Alert System, EAS, and wireless emergency alerts. on September 20th, 2018. The WEA portion of the test commences at 2:18 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, and the EAS portion follows at 2:20 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The test will assess the operational readiness of the infrastructure for distribution of a national message and determine whether improvements are needed. The WEA test message will be sent to cell phones that are connected to wireless carriers participating in WEA. This is the fourth EAS nationwide test and the first national WEA test. Previous EAS national tests were conducted in September 2011, 2016, and 2017 in collaboration with the FCC, broadcasters, and emergency management officials in recognition of FEMA's National Preparedness Month. The EAS is a national public warning system that provides the president with communications capability to address the nation during a national emergency. Read that again. A national public warning system that provides the president with communications capability to address the nation during a national emergency. Remember, we're in a state of emergency right now. The test is made available to EAS participants, i.e. radio and television broadcasters, cable systems, satellite radio and television providers, and wireline video providers, and is scheduled to last approximately 1 minute. The test message will be similar to regular monthly EAS test messages with which the public is familiar. The EAS message will include a reference to the WEA test, and then this is a quote from a test. This is a test of a national emergency alert system. This system was developed by broadcast and cable operators in voluntary cooperation with the Federal Emergency Management Agency, the Federal Communications Commission, and local authorities to keep you informed in the event of an emergency. If this had been an actual emergency, an official message would have followed the tone alert you heard at the start of the message. A similar wireless emergency alert test message has been sent to all cell phones nationwide. Some cell phones will receive the message, others will not. No action is required. Cell towers will broadcast the WEA test for approximately 30 minutes beginning at 2:18 p.m. EDT. During this time, WEA-compatible cell phones that are switched on within range of an active cell tower and whose wireless carrier participates in WEA should be capable of receiving the test message. Some cell phones will not receive the test message, and cell phones should only receive the message once. The WEA test message will have a header that reads Presidential Alert and text that says, "This is a test of the National Wireless Emergency Alert System. No action is needed." The WEA system is used to warn the public about dangerous weather, missing children, and other critical situations through alerts on cell phones. The national test will use the same special tone and vibration as with all WEA messages, i.e. tornado warning, Amber Alert. Users cannot opt out of the WEA test. If circumstances such as a major weather event cause the IPOT national test to be postponed, the backup date is Wednesday, October 3rd, 2018. Now let's cruise you back through some older Q posts starting with 2095 from just a couple days ago on the 5th. And this was basically a repost here regarding patriots and traders. Well, we're seeing all the traders start to come out the woodwork, right, with this panic. And the threat of D-class seems to be a massive threat, and it looks like this is going to turn into something big. Q says, fellow patriots, what you're about to learn should not only scare you, but intensify your resolve to take back control, freedom. The information that will become public will further demonstrate the criminal and corrupt pure evil abuse of power that the Hussein administration undertook in joint efforts with domestic and foreign dignitaries. The snowball has begun rolling. There's no stopping it now. D5 being a D5 avalanche. Stay the course and trust the plan. Protective measures are in place. Remain brave. We knew this day would come. Then it gives you this YouTube link. United we stand, worldwide. Where we go one, we go all. We fight. Conspiracy no more. So it looks like we could be in for a fight. Let's back up even further. Post 2053. Posted back on September 1st, we get this here. Presidential Proclamation on National Preparedness Month 2018. This was issued on August 31st. Now, I'm not going to read you the whole thing, but I want to take you down here. This month, I encourage all Americans to take the opportunity to ensure they have an emergency response plan in place and ready to be properly executed. Emergencies and disasters test the resilience and strength of families, communities, and our nation. It is impossible to avoid every challenge and threat, but we can and must prepare for them. By doing so, we can help protect our communities and save lives. Now, therefore, I, Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America, by virtue of the authority vested in me by the Constitution and the laws of the United States, do hereby proclaim September 2018 as National Preparedness Month. I encourage all Americans, including federal, state, and local officials, to take action to be prepared for disaster or emergency by making and practicing their emergency response plans. Each step we take to become better prepared makes a real difference in how our families and communities will respond and persevere when faced with the unexpected. Okay, so it looks like they know something's coming down the pike, and it looks like it's going to come real soon. We've had a few warnings. Let me take you even further back. Hopefully this older post will put things in a little perspective. Post 34 from November 1st, 2017. For those of you who are newer to Q, keep in mind back then Q did not necessarily sign off as Q all the time, but this is a Q post. Q Clearance Patriot. My fellow Americans, over the course of the next several days, you will undoubtedly realize that we are taking back our great country, the land of the free, from the evil tyrants that wish to do us harm and destroy the last remaining refuge of shining light. On POTUS order, we have initiated certain fail-safes that shall safeguard the public from the primary fallout, which is slated to occur 11/3 being November 3rd, upon the arrest announcement of Mr. Podesta, actionable 11/4. Confirmation to the public of what is occurring will then be revealed and will not be openly accepted. Public riots are being organized in serious numbers in an effort to prevent the arrest and capture of more senior public officials. On POTUS' order, a state of temporary military control will be actioned and special ops carried out. False leaks have been made to retain several within the confines of the United States to prevent extradition and special operator necessity. Rest assured, the safety and well-being of every man, woman, and child of this country is being exhausted in full. However, the atmosphere within the country will unfortunately be divided, as so many have fallen for the corrupt and evil narrative that has long been broadcast. We will be initiating the Emergency Broadcast System, EMS, during this time in an effort to provide a direct message, avoiding the fake news to all citizens. Organizations and or people that wish to do us harm during this time will be met with swift fury. Certain laws have been pre-lifted to provide our great military the necessary authority to handle and conduct these operations at home and abroad. Okay, well, this sounds very telling, and I've always had a feeling that this was a little bit of a future proves past issue. Now, back in November of last year, we were kind of looking for Mr. Podesta to have been arrested, and we weren't really sure, and it didn't seem to happen that way. So I'm wondering if this is still, like I said, a future proves past element, but I wanted to point this out. I do think that in times like this, I'm not one who likes to raise a bunch of fear or panic or anything like that, but I do think it's important to be prepared. If you are there at home and you need to do whatever you have to do to make sure that you're safe and you've got plenty of water and food and batteries or whatever it is that you need at home to prepare, I do encourage you to do so just in case. Now, what I don't encourage you to do is speculate, over-speculate, panic, or anything like that. I would not be surprised if at some point we do see a power outage, if we see the grid go out for a little bit. I think Q has alluded to this from time to time, but like I said, I am not here to spread panic. I think that we need to be really careful about that, but we see some warning signs here. It looks like something is coming closer. We're getting closer and closer to this D-class, so please stay safe, be prepared at home, stay optimistic, stay in touch with each other, and make sure that you establish your comms however you have to do that with your family and friends, and we'll all hope for the best. Let's move on. Post 2099, 20 minutes after the hour of 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we get this entitled Do It Q. And this is an Anon's post from 8chan, who says, I could do this every day. Number one, go to this page. And the Twitter status will take you to this picture. It's a rather old picture at this point, but you can see the crew inside of Air Force One all giving the thumbs up. And we'll talk about that picture in a second. So you go to the page, you right-click it from there and save as. Check the pic's name, and it has Do It Q. And it actually has Do It Q, and then kind of a stringer comes after it. Okay. And as you can see in this picture here, if you flip that paper, it's the Financial Times talking about the corruption arrest in Saudi Arabia. And that, of course, was more relevant at the time. And now if you look at this picture, you can see that all their thumbs make a perfect little Q. Okay, well, what would the chances of that being? Pretty crazy, huh? Now Q comes on here 1 in a billion. Coincidence? Enjoy the show tonight. Q. And of course, that's the post that we just skipped back over here. All right. So this picture ended up, of course, making a Q, but very strange that it would have this do it Q in front of the stringer. Another Anon on HN had this to say: the fact that the rendered JPEG file name started with do it Q means that the Q team knows the algorithm. They knew how Twitter renders the image names, so they could manipulate the original image name and properties for it to get a do it Q prefix by the Twitter naming algorithm. And then this Anon leaves a link with an article that talks a little bit about how to do that. I know, right? But it gets even more mind-blowing. Now, this is a Voat link from about 10 months ago, very much like a Reddit thread. And I'm just going to read part of this for you because it goes pretty deep and I don't have time to cover it all, but there's some really cool stuff here. I will leave you the link if you want to have some fun with this. Hello, guys. Here from the start of PG, but passive mode only. Now time to be active. Maybe it's a stretch, maybe gold. Here we go. The file name of the Trump Q photo on Twitter is not automatically the message do it Q. It's actually do it Q, JAUIAAOWSQ. Let's look at it objectively. Do it. That's not an accident. Clearly a message. So message is objectively split in do it, QJAUIAAOWSQ at first. That's all for now, and every normie can accept that. Let's go deeper. Tinfoil mode 1. OWSQ seems to be out of pattern here. Q is capital after 3 lowercase q is in cap here. Makes Q standing out as a single letter. Q needs to be viewed as a reference. Ergo, not a stretch to say message is split in do it Q, JAUIAA, OWSQ. OWSQ equals O's Q. Anyway, JAUIAA is the only part I have no explanation for. Remember, everything is connected, so I Googled it. Nothing. And of course, Google is crap now. Let's go to Bing. And here's the Bing link here. Here are a couple of the first things that come up and some more stuff here regarding the SEC.gov. A random government document containing the string JAUIAA. It's probably just a coincidence. I checked the doc. What do I read? Daugherty and Company, LLC. Where did I hear that name before? How often have they changed their name? Why? And we have a few different selections here from Daugherty and Company, LLC. Looks like they did change their name. Summit Investment Corp date of name change was 1997. Well, where did I hear that name before? On 4chan, CBTS. Yes, somewhere. So Google. And then here's the Google link. Bingo, I knew it. Takes you to another link. So there's a lot of stuff here going on. But ultimately, what this took this Anon to was to this Michael Emmett Daugherty. And he worked for the Mayo Clinic. And here were some other connections here. Now, this Daugherty had a relative, Mara Daugherty, neighbor of Comet Ping Pong, and it shows all the different connections here and stuff. So there's some fun stuff. I'm not so sure how deep it really goes, but I know that I saved this link, and I'll probably look at it sometime later. I'll leave it for you if you want to check it out. I want to stick to the Q for now, but here's another rabbit hole if you feel like going down a rabbit hole. Q goes on to post this from the 31st of July. Some pictures from the Tampa rally. How often does the presidential motorcade honk upon request? Well, not very often, I would assume. I don't know. I've never asked a presidential motorcade to honk before, but I'm going to assume it's not very often. So you may or may not remember this post from the Tampa rally. Q adds on, why before each rally are threats now being called in regarding Q attendees' effort to prevent? Yeah, could it be that they're getting a lot of different, I don't know what kind of threats necessarily, but probably things that are going to put people in danger. There's a lot of people that want to make sure that this Q message doesn't get out. And from what I understand, a lot of the QAnon people are kind of laying low. At these rallies, they're asking not to really have a ton of signs. Now, I don't know all the ins and outs because I don't live in the States, but that's what I'm hearing. And I would assume that some of that is an effort to prevent clowning Q out in public, or even worse, staging some sort of violent threat or some sort of violent activity and then blaming it on Q, which seems very likely right now. That's definitely the deep state kind of tactic, right? They want to do something and then just deflect it to somebody else. So that would be my guess, which only goes to show that more and more people are hating on Q, so we must be doing something right. Why are bots and or paid shills tasked to downvote and or shill Q discussion boards? Yeah, they're in full force, kids. I get them like crazy, literally arguing with me about just about everything. Now, I try not to delete a lot of that stuff. I try and leave it go, but if some stuff gets really too vulgar, I will delete it. That's about the only kind of standard that I have as far as that. Other than that, people are welcome to disagree all they want. But you see what's going on. People are downvoting videos. I had a video the other day. I was sitting around 8,000 views or whatever. I went to go refresh it, and it was down to like 6,300 views or whatever. So you see what's going on. Whether it's social media, paid bots, paid shills, they're out in the droves right now trying to clown not only the MAGA movement, but Q as well. Why is fake news media attacking this movement in strategic, coordinated ways? Because they need strategic, coordinated ways. We're running with a pretty good crew here, right? And things are working out. We're doing a lot of winning. And so to just kind of randomly attack Q isn't really going to help. Similar anti-POTUS tactics, yeah, they got to do it in waves. Remember, we've seen all these waves of different links coming out. They do it all at once. And that's the only way that they can really kind of coordinate with each other. All for conspiracy? Yeah, exactly. Are we just a conspiracy? If we're such a conspiracy, why don't you leave us alone? There's a lot of other conspiracies you could go after. What are they afraid of? They're afraid of the truth, and we all know it. How many coincidences before it's mathematically impossible? Yeah, in regards to, like, say, this picture, you know, or the original pictures that we posted yesterday. Really not yesterday, but we talked about yesterday, right? All this kind of stuff, mathematically impossible. And the world is watching. We got patriots from all over the world. The world is changing, and it's a good thing. We're witnessing a lot of the ugly part of it right now, but hopefully we can keep our heads, keep our wits about us, and just let a lot of this roll off. It's not easy at times. It's really easy to get kind of concerned about what's going on, especially when you see such ugliness about. But the fact of the matter is that it wouldn't be ugly if we weren't winning. Simple as that. Where we go one, we go all. So to all you world patriots, wherever you're watching from, where we go one, we go all. Let's move on. Next post, 2100. 11 minutes after the hour of 5 p.m., an Anon posts this. Twitter blocks Jones permanently. Drudge report. Breaking. Twitter bans Alex Jones permanently after ambush on Jack. I'm assuming that's Jack Dorsey. And then we have this Gateway Pundit link here. Q says there's a lot more to this than you realize. Think collective attacks versus Q. The link takes you to the Gateway Pundit. Breaking. Twitter bans Alex Jones permanently after ambush on Jack Dorsey. Twitter banned Alex Jones and InfoWars from Twitter and Periscope. They took this action based on new reports of tweets and videos posted yesterday that violate our abusive behavior policy in addition to the account's past violations. Update. Alex Jones was banned for confronting CNN's Oliver Darcy. Yeah, he confronted Oliver Darcy, and of course Oliver Darcy was not taking kindly to it at all. Mark Dice here nails it on Twitter. So Alex Jones got banned from Twitter for confronting a public figure, CNN's Oliver Darcy, about him encouraging platforms to censor InfoWars at a public event about that very issue. Unreal, exactly. And Twitter Safety says this. Today, we are permanently suspended Alex Jones and InfoWars from Twitter and Periscope. We took this action based on new reports of tweets and videos posted yesterday that violate our abusive behavior policy in addition to the account's past violations. All right, well, I want to make something really clear real quick about Alex Jones. I don't really love covering Alex Jones because it's such a divisive topic that all it really does is spread a whole bunch of hate and a lot of misunderstandings, and I get a lot of viewers trying to put words into my mouth that weren't there. Back in the day, I loved me some Alex Jones. True story. I started doing public media in 2001. Okay, so I've been following Alex Jones for a very, very long time, and I loved him back in the day, and I owe him a lot of respect for that. That being said, I don't really believe this is the same Alex Jones we're dealing with anymore, and I've chosen to not follow him. Now, I've never chosen to attack him. So for those of you who are saying I'm hating on him, you can back it up right there. I've never put any hate on Alex Jones, nor do I put a ton of love on him either. He is what he is, and you can think whatever you like about him. Same thing with Corsi and Roger Stone and the whole crew. I really don't care what you think about him, nor do I expect you to care what I think about him. The fact of the matter is, Alex Jones is banned, and that's a big deal. Now, in regards to this story, I think there's something nefarious going on, and I have lately about Alex Jones, and I don't want to go way into that right now. We'll go into that in a little bit, but I can't help but think that they were pushing this a little bit. Maybe not InfoWars themselves, but definitely Twitter. I think they had every intention of shutting Alex Jones down, and they're kind of testing the waters to see if they can go after Q next. And Q kind of confirms my suspicions to that. By simply saying that, there's a lot more to this than you realize. Think collective attacks versus Q. So like I said, regardless of what you think about Alex Jones, love him or hate him, we're welcome to disagree. I definitely don't think it should be something that should divide this movement. And I'm amazed at the hate that people spew when it comes to this topic, when it's really just easy enough to just, agree to disagree. I've had people go even so far as to call me a traitor over Alex Jones. And I want you to be real careful with that traitor talk. You're assuming that I'm guilty of treason and that I should be punished by death. So keep that in mind before you start tossing that traitor word around. Some of you keyboard commandos out there playing spec ops in your jammers. All right. Let's move on. We'll talk about it a little bit more in this next post. 2101, 8 minutes after the hour, 6 p.m., Q adds on. They attack Alex Jones to give him fake credibility amongst POTUS supporting patriots, thus poisoning the water and directing narrative of the opposition through an MOS-supported asset, aka AJ. All team effort, coordinated collective attacks with pawns and actors serving black hat agenda and attempting to divide the patriots. Attacks will come from all sides. Yeah, I get the idea. Like I said, that they're trying it out, see what happens to AJ, see if it ruffles enough feathers. Maybe they'll go after Q and Anon next. Why not? If they were able to pull it off with Alex Jones, then they were able to pull it off with Q. And like I said, I don't care what you think about Alex Jones, he shouldn't be banned. And I don't personally follow him. I don't really personally like his message anymore. And there's no way I'd ever want Alex Jones or InfoWars to be banned. But that's what happened. And that's what we're looking at right now. And we very well could be looking at some attacks towards Q coming next. Now, is it possible that they're going after AJ? It looks like Q's suggesting that to make him look like he's on the opposition when maybe he's playing along with this. He's certainly testing the waters himself, right? Getting up in people's faces, being more brash than usual. And of course, we all know that AJ's really abrasive, right? But that's just the way he's always been. We've kind of always laughed it off and just said, well, that's just him, right? Well, it looks like this is really, really coming to a head now, and they're shutting him down. We'll have to see how it actually plays out with that. Now, many of you have contacted me regarding this MOS, saying, Patrick, MOS is not Mossad, it is Media Object Server. The Media Object Server MOS protocol allows newsroom computer systems to communicate using a standard protocol with video servers, audio servers, still stores, and character generators for broadcast production. Well, that also makes a lot of sense in context, doesn't it? However, I'm still sticking with Mossad. I wanted to let you guys know that I was aware of it. We did talk about it one time, and there was one Q post that referred to the MOS protocol, which so seems like that would also be the Media Object Server, correct? Now, in this instance, I think MOS, maybe it has a double meaning. Maybe it's like the ES, Edward Snowden, Eric Schmidt thing that we banged our head against the wall only to find out that Q was kind of trying to put them together, right? So maybe it's one of those things because they both kind of have a little bit of relevance here. But I wanted to let you know, in the spirit of fairness, I'd rather be accurate than correct myself. So if that's what you want to plug into your narrative, go ahead. I'm still sticking with Mossad in regards to Alex Jones, though. So I think that could very well be both. All right, let's move on, though. Control and Divide, Q says. Think Mueller, who is testifying before Mueller tomorrow. That's Jerome Corsi. Forensic data analysis on phones and or computers. Yeah, they want to know what's up. Well, they want to ask him questions about in regards to Roger Stone. And Roger Stone, back in the day, kind of predicted, if you will, this WikiLeaks leak. And that was the Guccifer 2.0 thing, right? Well, Q's saying this isn't about Guccifer 2.0. Okay, well, what is this about? What happens if Mueller proves Free Speech Systems, LLC, otherwise known as InfoWars, is linked to a foreign intel agency or others? All right, we'll talk a little bit more about Free Speech Systems, LLC in a future post here, but it essentially, yes, is InfoWars. Is it linked to a foreign intel agency or other non-domestic entity? Well, like I've been saying, I said it yesterday that, I've always smelled Mossad up in this, and I think a lot of you do too. I don't know what else to say. That's just what I see. And Q is implying that that's the case. How can the left use that information to divide and censor the right? Well, I suppose if they've got a guy like Alex Jones that is so divisive, like I've said, then it really helps them divide the movement. And I guess that's been precisely my concern regarding Alex Jones. I've never been nearly as concerned about whether or not Alex Jones, Jerome Corsi, Roger Stone, whomever, I've never been so concerned about whether or not they're a bad guy or good guy. I've been more concerned about whether or not patriots are going to be united or divided regarding the issue. And it's a polarizing issue. And that is my concern. So it seems to me like that could be used to divide and censor the right. You use a guy that is polarizing, very loved. There's a lot of people that don't trust Alex Jones that still kind of love Alex Jones. You know what I mean? He's just one of those guys. And so when you got somebody that's deep in like that, I suppose somebody like that could divide. And look, it's working, right? So that's how you would do it. And I suppose then if you use him and then you censor him, there are going to be some people that are going to fly his flag. There are other people that are going to say, good, I never cared about Alex Jones anyway. And probably a lot of people that are in between. But the fact of the matter is, Alex Jones is banned, and it could be you or I next. That's what matters. And patriots need to be united despite the issue. Because what really matters is that patriots stay patriots. Why are affiliates of InfoWars constantly attacking Q? Well, you tell me. I mean, why should I even answer that, right? You guys are smart enough to know. You guys are smart enough to answer, to ask that question yourself. Why are they? Why would they do that? I thought we were all patriots. That's what I thought. Well, who's pulling the strings? And Q leaves some empty brackets here. Free Speech Systems, LLC. Looks to me like Q wants us to look into Free Speech Systems, LLC. So let's move on and do that. Post 2102, 25 minutes after the hour of 6 p.m., we get this Twitter link here, and Q says this is called Panic. And it takes you to the Hill. Just in, Warren calls for using the 25th Amendment to remove Trump from office. And of course, we're talking about Elizabeth Dances with Wolves Warren. Senator Elizabeth Warren said Thursday she believes it's time for White House officials to invoke the 25th Amendment and begin the process of removing President Trump from office. I know. The comments come one day after a blistering op-ed published in the New York Times by an anonymous senior administration official that blasted Trump as amoral and anti-democratic and said staffers must constantly rebut the president's misguided impulses and worst inclinations. If senior administration officials think the president of the United States is not able to do his job, then they should invoke the 25th Amendment, Warren told CNN. The Constitution provides for a procedure whenever the vice president and senior officials think the president can't do his job. It does not provide that senior officials go around the president, take documents off his desk, write anonymous op-eds. Every one of these officials has sworn to uphold the Constitution of the United States. It's time for them to do their job, she added. Okay, well, hey, Dances with Wolves, let's take a look at the 25th Amendment. The 25th Amendment to the United States Constitution deals with issues related to presidential succession and disability. It clarifies Article 2, Section 1, Clause 6 by stating emphatically that the vice president becomes president as opposed to acting president. If the president dies, resigns, or is removed from office, and establishes procedures both for filling a vacancy in the office of the vice president and for responding to presidential disabilities. The 25th Amendment was submitted to the states on July 6, 1965 by the 89th Congress and was adopted on February 10, 1967. Okay, so if the president dies, resigns, or is removed from office, those are three ways you could get rid of the president and get the vice president to step in. Or they got to establish procedure both for filling a vacancy in the office of the vice president and for responding to presidential disabilities. So the first three didn't really work, did they? And this is what they're going for now, the disability. Okay. Now I have a question for you, because I think it's very interesting that she brings up this op-ed. Was she the one that penned the op-ed? What do you think? As a matter of fact, let me know down below. I'll put up a question there. You guys can hit that thread there. Let me know down below who wrote that mysterious op-ed that everyone's talking about. Who do you think it was? Now, do you think it was Dances with Wolves Warren right here or somebody else? You can let me know. But you can see what's up. Massive, massive panic. They've got nothing. Everything's going well. The economy's up. Taxes are down. And the Dems are panicking. And they're not going to win midterms, and they know it. Now, they're not even playing political. They're just playing ugly. And that's panic. Let's move on to 2103. 37 minutes after the hour of 6 p.m., Q responds to an Anon who posts a couple screenshots regarding the Free Speech Systems LLC. And the Anon goes on to ask about the open brackets saying 12 spaces. Is there something that we need to be looking at inside those spaces? Is there a relevancy to those 12 spaces that Q left open? Now, we get this picture here, and this is from an article called The Hidden Tax on Humanity. This was posted March 20th, 2018. It's a massive article. We're going to talk about it in just a second, but here's a picture from it. And this is from a meeting in Krakow, Poland, March 6, 1995. And as you can see, Mel Rockefeller's in there, Dr. Jerry Corsi, Brad Amundsen. Sorry, some of those Polish names I'm not going to nail, so I'll just let you read them. Now, Q is acknowledging this. I'm not so sure if Q is acknowledging the 12 spaces or not. Not really sure. We'll take a look at it. But let's read this excerpt here. Q says, follow the picture. Jerome Corsi, who I outed as a Mossad asset/agent in a 1997 sting operation in London. Corsi and Piper Jaffray broker Brad Amundsen were integral to a fraud that took Minnesota's investors for $1 million that the FBI refused to properly investigate. Instead, agents sought to portray me as, I'm assuming that's irresponsible. Corsi is named as the author of several best-selling Israeli PSYOP books, including Unfit for Command, Atomic Iran, Minutemen, and the Obama Nation. Okay, so this comes from this article. Now, I'm going to post this on my Patreon. I read it a long time ago. Well, I guess it wasn't that long ago, March. But I need to read it again. I forgot probably half of it. This talks a whole lot about Israeli connections, and there's a lot of names you're going to recognize here. In particular, though, it looks like Q is turning our attention to Jerome Corsi. Let me turn you on to this right here. Corsi immediately told me that he already knew my identity because being in the anti-terrorism business, me and my partners routinely track Rockefeller family members, introducing himself as creator of the B'nai B'rith Mutual Fund in Israel. Corsi proposed that we establish a similar fund in Poland, relying on, I'm guessing that's BitChute's contacts. As usual, I gave everyone benefit of the doubt while also anticipating this could be the pre-staging for yet another fraud. Okay, Corsi's mentioned quite a bit in this, and like I said, I'm going to post this on my Patreon for really my own reference too, but I do suggest reading it. I'm going to get back to reading it too. But look, like I said yesterday, I don't choose to go after these guys, but Q is definitely turning us on to the fact that it looks like this free speech systems is knee-deep wrapped up in Mossad, which is another reason why I think we're simply talking about Mossad here. Maybe they're using an MOS, don't know. But we do know that for a while, Corsi was getting jiggy with the Q post and wanted to get real cozy with it. And when it didn't work out, then all of a sudden he was kind of anti-Q. And there was a time where Q didn't post for a while. And Corsi said that Q was comped, right? And then all of a sudden he was sort of implying that he was going to be part of the Q post writing. And it just got really, really weird. And like I said, you're welcome to feel whatever you like about Corsi. I'm not so sure I trust it, and this is precisely why. That being said, I'm not going to pile on with that, but it looks like we've got some really, really deep PSYOP Israeli contacts here, and Q is pointing us to all these InfoWar guys. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see how this testimony will go. If people are going to sell each other out, if they're going to double down, if we're going to see that perceived bad guys are good guys, or vice versa, don't know. You can let me know what you think down below. But I do think what the important thing is here is that whatever this was seems to have been set up to divide patriots. And that's the last thing that I would like to see, regardless of how you feel about these InfoWars people. Now, in regards to this 12 spaces, I thought about this guy here. Russian Jewish oligarch and mega thief Mikhail Khodorkovsky, CEO of Yukos Oil. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. John? 12. Yes! CEO of Yukos Oil. So I'm not really sure, but this guy would seem to qualify if that were true. He's got this Khodorkovsky Communications Center. and I haven't done a whole bunch of deep diving yet. I do know that Lee Stranahan has done some work on this guy, seems to think that this guy is really, really key. So I would key in on him if you're wanting to do that search. This guy might lead us right straight to all this. So that's my guess on that. You can let me know what you think. Let's move on for now. 21:04, 56 minutes after the hour of 6 p.m. Look at that. We've got some VIPs kicking it in the front row, just like Bob Euchre. VIP Patriots, we see you. Q, we got an interview going on. And look at that, looking sweet with those Q shirts. I don't know if these people follow my channel or not, but if anybody knows these people, please have them get in touch with me. I would love to know their story. Did they get moved to the front row? She's got her popcorn. How awesome is that? Oh my God, that's great. So I want to know if anybody was there and you've got stories. Did they take your signs? Did you see some in the crowd? What was your experience? I would love to know your stories. Okay, so those are your Q posts. Let's talk a little bit about this rally before I let you go. Okay, so we had this rally. Most of you guys already saw this in Billings. And this is from the Twitter of Edward Nelson 4TN. And as you can see, there's this guy in this plaid shirt behind President Trump. Now, I don't know what his deal was, but he was mad entertaining, and he was next to this girl. You can't really see it that well in this picture, but she was wearing a MAGA hat. And there was a guy that seemed to kind of look like he might have known him standing next to her. I'm not really sure, but this guy didn't seem to be much of a Trump fan at all. And it was pretty entertaining. Now, there were some times where he was asking a lot of questions to what seemed to be his friend next to him or whatever. They seemed to know each other. They were talking to each other. Now, check this picture out at one point. Thanks to LV426 who posted this on Twitter. I think she got it off her screen. This is beautiful right here. So he was not having it, right? And I don't know, about halfway through or whatever, they replaced him. And they put two girls in both of their places and went on with the bit. So it was really, really entertaining. There were a lot of entertaining parts of this whole rally. Let me turn you on to about 40 minutes in when President Trump says this.
I beat governors, a couple of people, great people like Ben Carson. I beat a lot of great people. Ben Carson was tough. But I beat 17 great people. And I respectfully say, I beat the Bush dynasty. Okay.
17 great people. Interesting choice of number, President Trump. Hey, John, what is the 17th letter in the alphabet?
A Q.
Yeah, how about that? And that almost looks like what I'm seeing right here off the United States Space Force, who posted this. We perceive up to 80% of all impressions by means of our sight. And if other senses such as taste or smell stop working, it's the eyes that best protect us from danger. Hey, check that out, John. Looks like a Q kind of, doesn't it? What do you think about that?
And it's got
that little thingy right there. Looks like a Q. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's all I got for you today. I am going to leave you with that. As always, if you like this video, please click like, share, and subscribe. And if you are new to my channel, please understand that you will from time to time be unclicked, unnotified, and unsubscribed because CEO of YouTube, Susan Wojcicki, just sees to it that way. All right, kids, that's all I got for you. And if Q posts more, I will be back at it again. And until then, this is Sir Patrick Mack. Stay patriotic.